Good morning. Our hand today is going to be a6. We're in the big blind. This hand folds around in the small blind, who min raises, and it's on me, I call. So this is going to be pretty hard to come up with a solid range. It is blind versus blind. Some players tend to play a little bit looser. I'm not sure if this player is a player that's pretty loose, but I also think the min raise is a little bit telling. I think with min raises, you can typically eliminate some of these big hands here, especially 10s, jack, ace, queen, maybe even as wide as like ace, jack, and king, queens, and so forth. I think they would have probably raised 3 or 4 blinds, something bigger than just a min raise. It means min raise is more indicative of hands that are a little bit weaker. You can think suited aces where the kicker's not that great. You think some of the weaker Broadways, the queen, jack, queen tens, king tens. You think small pocket pairs. Could also be like suited connectors, suited one gappers, and so forth. What I'm going to do is leave in all the big hands because sometimes that's the too big. The min raise is just what some people prefer to play. They think they're trying to be tricky here. So along with all the junk or the speculative hands, they make sure that they raise the same amount with their massive hands. So I'm going to give them something like this. All the aces, ace-x hands, broadways, pocket pairs, and go from there. I only have 10 hands on him. I don't know, I don't really have a good read on this player. Blind versus blind. Normally, we're going to have a pretty wide 3-bet range, something like that. Ace-6 kind of falls right outside of it. We have to keep some of our ace-x hands, ace-x suited hands in a range as a calling range, so that way if an ace flops, we could conceivably have an ace. We could hit some of the wheel draws and so forth. So this is kind of like the calling range that I'm sure I probably used because I was just trying to move over to some of these wider ranges. And I think overall I have been playing more hands. I've been 3-betting more, or I feel like I've been 3-betting more. So this is a spot where we could 3-bet, could raise it up to something like 8 is probably what I would do, since we would be in position. But I played this one for a call, just to see, what villain's going to do if I connect or if he connects, and so forth. So I called. Flop comes queen 6-5. This is not going to be a hand that I fold. I've got basically second pair. It's a vulnerable pair. Flush draw could be out there. We don't know what villain's going to do, what his tendencies are, and he leads for half pot. So what kind of hands do I think he does this with? He could be doing it with 100% of his hands. Just, the queen should hit his range, his raising range. I mean, he's got all those broadways. He could be doing it with, missed hands, flush draws. I don't really think he hit. He could have had 5s or 6s, for trips. But I don't really think he has hands like 3-4 or 7-8. I think those are pretty low probability hands. I don't have those in his range, so I don't really think he has them. So I think here it's probably, we're just going to go 100% of his range. Now, I think I'm in a situation where my hand's vulnerable. I should probably raise this. How much do I raise it? I think we need to raise it probably up to about 8 big blinds. That gives us, it's basically a pot size raise. With that raise, we are expecting to generate quite a few folds. It helps protect our hands because if he has a king jack or let's say jack 10, we could and another Broadway card comes out, he can easily now pick up the pair. That causes him to call down all the way to the river, and now our sixes are beat. I think this could be a good spot to go ahead and raise. So let's look at our range and say, what other hands would I raise with? I think we're raising for value. I think we're raising top pair. And then I think we're kind of doing these pocket pair below top card and these middle pairs and possibly even a bottom pair. That's 30%. I think if we get rid of the bottom pair, bottom pair could be like part of our calling range. Are we going to do all of our middle pair, all of our bottom pair? I don't think so. I think some of these hands, so 9-6, 8-6, 6-4, they have draws. So we've got a pair and we have a gut shot draw. I think we have some benefit to just call there and hope that we connect a little bit more. I am going to take out like flush draws, open enders, out of there, so it drops our percentages down. I don't think it did it? No, it didn't do it. But I think that's a raising range. So I think I made the mistake. I didn't raise. So let's get this. Let's get what we could have. I don't think we're going to just do this with nothing. Let's get that fixed. Flush draw, open enders. I think we're gonna have to X these out. Just so we don't kind of get them accidentally in there. Open ender, gut shot, I think we call. I'm not sure if we're calling with 2-card backdoor flush draws. That would include some of our pairs. I don't think we should be raising a lot. Now, I'm sure I didn't because it's an unknown, and my thought was if I just call and he checks on the turn, we're probably good. So we're getting, it's a lower risk play. We're not investing as much to get similar type of information, because I kind of think if I raise here, I don't think junk's calling. I think we're going to get called by a pair, flush draw, straight draw, if he has a straight draw, if he has some of those hands. So I'm going to say that that's our calling range. And he's basically like 100%. So he's got a lot of cards, and since we didn't raise, we kind of narrowed down some of our strength to really make it more towards draws. 9 of spades hits, and villain checked. So now that 9 of spades isn't that great because I think he's got some hands that could call. Now, I would assume a set would still bet. I would assume an overpair would still bet. I would assume top pair would still bet, which leaves pocket pair less than the top cards, weak pair, no made hands, and so forth. So I'm going to kind of get these X'd out. Flush draw, probably. I mean, it seems like I'm running into more and more players who get scared and stop betting, but they're willing to call. So I'm going to say flush draw, open enders, some of the 2-card gut shots, they're going to be playing. So overall, you're going to have a lot of hands here in their checking range. And if I bet, then I kind of think he's probably calling with these draws, flush draws, open enders, possibly some of these pairs, to try to keep me honest, you could say. But then he's probably going to be folding a bunch of other hands, is my thought. So I think there's some value now. Once he checks for us to bet, And I think this is the value that we missed previously. So I think we should have raised it up to 8 and applied the pressure, because now with that 10, it gives him some more hands. Like 10 Jack could call, 9-10 could call, 9-8 could call. I think those are the hands that we're hoping to fold out with our raise, basically protect our equity. All right, so we've connected. I think with our bets, we're going to have straights, 2 pairs. I think our middle pair could be betting here. He showed weakness. We're betting, trying to protect our hand. I think our weak pair is going to bet, and then we're going to have these draws that we're going to be betting. So basically we're going to be betting 100% once he checked to us, and it's about half and half, half value, half bluff. I think that works. And we bet 8. Maybe we should have bet 6. Because the 4 could have encouraged him to call a little bit more. So now that he calls, let's get rid of some of our hands. So I think flush draws, open enders are calling. Gut shots are question mark. He might have them, he might not have them. But you can see right now when we took out the no-made hands, we took out the 1-card gut shot, 2-card gut shots. We're at 31.9. That's a pretty big difference, pretty big drop. He's full. He should be folding a lot. Do I think he's calling with the gut shot? Well, I think the gut shot is with King Jack and King 10 of clubs. He already has that. What about like Ace 8, Ace 7 of clubs? He has those. 7s and 8s I think is already. So I don't think we're really adding. I mean, the gut shot's adding like some of the offsuit, like Ace 8, Ace 7. I'm not sure if players actually play that way. So I'm going to go with this range here for him. River's a 5. I think this definitely could connect to our range. He checks to us. I think 3 of a kind could be betting here. Could be checking. Again, kind of based on the player. I think all of these hands could be checking here. So 100% of his range he could be checking. It's on us. Question is what percentage will be calling. So 3 of a kind will definitely call, could be raising. Pocket pair less than the top card. I think that is where he could be calling to bluff catch with those hands, and maybe also with the middle pair to bluff catch. So I think at best 32% calls. He's going to be folding, what is that, 68%? I think this is a spot where we can bet, not necessarily for some value, definitely not with a6, but I think when he checks to us, I think we're betting here with. Oops, let's take that out. I think we're betting here with straights and 3 of a kind, and then that's probably it. I think that's going to be our value range. And then the middle pair has showdown value. The bad 2 pair has 9-6. We could probably bet too. I think 9-6 we would bet. So 2 pair we would bet. But middle pair, weak pair, a side, nothing. I think those are all going to be value hands. Now, what about our bluffs? Busted club draws kind of makes sense, because I think he's going to be folding, and based on how often he folds, I think we could benefit from it. Ace high, I think I probably just take some showdown value with our ace high. I think any hands that call will be beating us at that point. I mean, same thing with nothing, but at least we target it. I think the problem with the club draws is that if we have a club draw, it makes it less likely that he has a club draw, and I think that's what we're hoping Villain might have had when he bet and then called the turn. We're hoping that he had some sort of draw, and by having the clubs, if we have the clubs, then we kind of eliminate that. So perhaps at 3-4, it looks a little bit better for us to kind of target, for us to kind of bet. maybe even some of these really weak pair. What did I do? I think I checked behind, which I think for my hand is okay. So we get to see a river, and he shows a 7 of clubs. So here's a hand I don't think he's gonna call if we bet. And it's exactly kind of what I was saying, where if I have clubs, it makes it less likely that he has clubs, and that's kind of the hands that we're hoping he's been calling with. So if we bet with our hand with our 6, I mean he folds, we don't really get value from it. From our hand. I mean, he folded. We just basically picked up the pot. But if he had a hand like a 9, let's say ace 9 of clubs, he's going to call that. So our bet wouldn't be for value. What about our raise? Had we raised the flop, he's still probably going to call. And then when we bet the turn, he's still probably going to call. If we bet the river again, he's definitely going to fold. I think this could be a situation where I think our play should have been to raise to help protect our equity, because again, a 7 or an ace would really, well, a 7 would hurt us. And could conceivably, and of course, if a club gets there, we're not betting. It's a huge number of hands that villain could have would include that club draw. So I think my pre-flop play was okay. I think what we missed was raising for protection on that flop with a vulnerable pair. I think this is our mistake. That's how we should have played it. All right, hopefully you enjoyed this. If you do, look tomorrow for another hand.